Welcome to CBC Today here on Politic 365. I'm Ray Baker. With Congress on recess, many members are back in their districts doing important work for their constituents. Politic 365 traveled to Brooklyn to catch up with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York's 8th Congressional District as he went on a small business crawl that highlighted the important use of technology in his district. After the crawl, Congressman Jeffries sat down for this conversation. Congressman, how has technology changed business here in Brooklyn?
Brooklyn's a happening place, and technology and the internet is a happening place, and so the combination of the two was wonderful to bring together in the context of this internet crawl, from traditional businesses like Junior's and their world famous cheesecake to Project Hope and the wonderful work that's being done to help people in Brooklyn secure employment opportunities through the vehicle of the internet. This has been a wonderful experience for me. I do consider myself one of the more internet fluent individuals, but again, if I compare that to my 12-year-old and my 9-year-old son, that's not saying much because the technology explosion continues to be significant and growing. It's imperative for members of Congress to learn as much as we can about the internet and how it is affecting the lives of our constituents and the businesses and not-for-profits that increasingly operate in the internet space.
Has the usefulness of the internet and how it's been able to work here in Brooklyn for businesses, is that something that we can project across the nation for effectiveness?
Well, I do think that there is a growing interconnection between Brooklyn, New York City, and the technology and innovation economy that is centered in many ways along the opportunities that are provided by the internet. And what we've seen is that technology and innovation is no longer simply located in Silicon Valley, but increasingly in what's been referred to as Silicon Alley, which makes its way through parts of Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. And today, I had the opportunity to really experience that firsthand in a variety of different capacities. Non-traditional internet companies utilizing the internet to promote themselves or their social and not-for-profit activity.
Congressman, we know that New York has nearly 11% of all African-American owned businesses. What can we do to ensure that African-American owned businesses keep up with technological advancements?
Well, one of the things that I've been interested in confronting, and certainly as a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, we've attempted to tackle the issue of closing the digital divide, both as it relates to younger generations of African Americans and providing them with the same type of opportunities in science, technology, engineering, and math, and the internet that are available to other more affluent neighborhoods and communities that have a different type of educational system. We got to close that educational divide across the internet. But it's also important to make sure that African American businesses and entrepreneurs and innovators have the opportunities that are available to others through capital and through infrastructure support, so that their ideas can grow and flourish just like everyone else's.
Congressman, there's no doubt that we see what the effective measures that technology and the internet can provide with regards to business. However, when we talk about other things, whether we're talking education, criminal justice, agriculture, what uses can technology provide to help advance the lives of all Americans, but particularly African Americans?
Well, one of the things that's become clear is that the ability of technology to deliver information in a way that is at a significantly reduced cost to what traditionally has been the case provides opportunities for us to allow resources to flow into certain communities that have not traditionally benefited in the way as other more affluent communities from an information flow opportunity standpoint. This applies in rural America, in urban America, in blue states, in red states, because poverty exists all across this country, and it's not just a black issue or white issue. It affects all Americans, and the internet can be a powerful vehicle for transmitting information and for communicating at a cost that is significantly reduced, providing opportunities to communities that otherwise may not have had them in the past.
Lastly, Congressman, we're here in Brooklyn, New York. We would be remiss if we did not address stop and frisk. Now, we know your position. You've been against it, and there are many federal officials who are. However, there are some local officials, particularly here in New York, who are supportive of the measure. What can we do to bridge the disconnect between the federal officials who are against stop and frisk and the local officials who are implementing it as is?
Well, in a democracy, there has to be a balance between effective law enforcement on the one hand and a healthy respect for civil rights and civil liberties on the other. And the out-of-control, aggressive, draconian stop and frisk program being run by the NYPD has obliterated that balance in New York City. And for years, we've attempted to have a dialogue with Police Commissioner Kelly and Mayor Bloomberg to strike a more appropriate balance. They've refused to do so, which is why we've arrived at this point where you've had a federal court judge declare the program in practice as unconstitutional. And it's unfortunate that the disconnect continues and that Mayor Bloomberg and Police Commissioner Kelly continue to be resistant, turn a blind eye to the realities of the manner in which their stop and frisk program has visited a great deal of pain and confusion and constitutional violations on predominantly Black and Latino communities in New York City. The hope is that as we transition from one administration to the next, there'll be a greater level of recognition at the local level of the fact that stop and frisk can be done differently, and that dramatically reforming the program will not increase crime in any meaningful way. In fact, I would argue that if you have a greater degree of cooperation between the police and the community, the likelihood is it makes the police department's job in combating crime a whole lot easier because of the flow of information that makes their way to the police, and the level of cooperation increases. And so I'm optimistic, not just because of the federal court's decision declaring this program in New York City unconstitutional, but because of the fact that we do anticipate a greater level of cooperation with whoever becomes the next mayor and the next police commissioner in New York City.
Congressman, we know that this is a Senate decision, but Ray Kelly has been rumored to be considered for Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. If he is nominated for that position, would he have your support?
He would absolutely not have my support, and I think that there will be people all across the country who have indicated significant resistance to the appointment and elevation of Ray Kelly as Homeland Security Secretary. That's because of the unconstitutional stop and frisk program that he has run, the unconstitutional Muslim surveillance program that he's run, and his consistent, steadfast refusal to recognize that the Constitution should not stop at the banks of the Hudson River, that it should apply equally and the same degree of force with Black and Latino communities, and his inability to process that constitutional reality disqualifies him for elevation to be the Homeland Security Secretary.